Hey guys, Naruto is coming back. And yes, this time it's a live-action film that was stuck in Hollywood's most cursed phenomenon called development hell for years. But finally, 2026 has given us a possible beacon of hope, and it suggests that maybe within the next few years, we're going to experience Naruto's story unfolding on the giant screen. Starting as a best-selling manga series, Naruto got its first animated series in 2002, introducing his story to an even larger worldwide audience. So it didn't take long for Hollywood to dream of making a live-action version, but even after a 2015 announcement, the project was nowhere to be found for years. So now that we've received some recent reported updates, I'd like to share everything we know so far about the production status. Hang tight until the end of this video, and let's get started. Where the project actually stands right now. After Lionsgate announced a different creative team leading the live-action Naruto, there was once again a long period of silence until industry insider Daniel Richtman reported that production is expected to begin in late 2026, although Lionsgate has yet to confirm any official filming details. Multiple media outlets are discussing this particular timeline, but it's still safer to treat it as an unconfirmed industry report rather than a guaranteed production schedule. So I think it's reasonable to hope that by the end of 2026, we might receive some solid information on the production of Naruto. Lionsgate first began developing a live-action Naruto film in 2015, so it's already been more than a decade since the project was originally announced without reaching production. But now, the scenario has changed, mostly because of the names associated with the project. First of all, Destin Cretton, the man behind one of Marvel's successful action films, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, is going to lead the project as its director. Tasha Hu completed an earlier version of the screenplay, and Cretton later took over the writing process when he joined the project. In 2024, Hu said her script was finished and that Cretton was doing his own work on the story. Now, I think the reported production schedule could make sense because Cretton wrapped principal photography on Spider-Man Brand New Day in December 2025. However, he still had post-production and promotional responsibilities connected with that film. But there are some issues. First of all, it's a live-action adaptation of a shonen manga like Naruto, which means it might need an extensive post-production period to completely wrap it up. So I think the release date could potentially be pushed into 2028 if filming really begins near the end of 2026. But once again, these are just presumptions built around an unconfirmed production report, and we are eagerly waiting for the studio to say something concrete about it. Destin Cretton is finally the director, and why that took so long. So let's talk about the man who's going to bring it back to life, and that's Destin Cretton. It was February 2024 when Lionsgate confirmed that Destin would both write and direct the project, and I'm pretty glad the creative vision has not publicly changed since. The project remained in development for years, but it finally found a new creative direction after Cretton joined the team. Even Naruto creator Masashi Kishimoto was satisfied with this decision. Now, as we know, Naruto was never only about shonen-style fights and ninja drama, because it's given us some of the greatest characters over the years whom we can connect with. Kishimoto's public statement praised Cretton's ability to balance blockbuster action with character-driven drama, and Cretton's resume fits right in. Apart from directing Shang-Chi and other action-driven productions, he also wrote and directed films like Short Term 12 and The Glass Castle, where emotion takes center stage, not the action. On top of that, Kishimoto actually liked talking to Cretton, so I can say that there appears to be creative solidarity behind the project, and maybe that same kind of solidarity will be present in the production team as well. First of all, this is not any small production team. Cretton is also co-producing with Jay Munford through his production company Hisako, and names like Avi Arad, Ari Arad, MEU, and Jeremy Latcham are also attached to the film. Lionsgate's James Myers, who previously worked with Cretton on his movie The Glass Castle, is overseeing the film from the studio side alongside John Humphrey. So needless to say, the project is being handled carefully, and Kishimoto's public support gives us some assurance so far. Kishimoto's blessing and what he actually said about Cretton. So if you have any sort of doubt about why Kishimoto appreciated Cretton's involvement in the adaptation, then hear from the man himself. Kishimoto has been publicly connected with the project since at least 2016, when his involvement in its development was announced. He watched it go from being stuck in limbo to finally getting a filmmaker he publicly supported. So making an impression on him was quite a task. There is no reliable public statement proving that Kishimoto categorically opposed every Hollywood adaptation or specifically feared that Western influence would ruin Naruto's cultural spirit. What we do know is that he responded very positively after learning about Cretton's involvement and meeting him in Tokyo. In his words, "When I heard of Destin's attachment, it happened to be right after watching a blockbuster action film of his, and I thought he would be the perfect director for Naruto." He then continued, saying, "After enjoying his other films and understanding that his forte is in creating solid dramas about people, I became convinced that there is no other director for Naruto." And when the two met for the first time, Kishimoto could not have liked him better. He said, "In actually meeting Destin, I also found him to be an open-minded director who was willing to embrace my input and felt strongly that we would be able to cooperate further in the production process." He concluded by saying that the live-action Naruto was positioned to combine spectacular action with profound drama and that he was excited about it. The decade in development hell, Michael Gracie, and the false start. When Lionsgate began developing the movie adaptation in 2015, the first director attached was Michael Gracie, whom you might know from his 2017 musical drama The Greatest Showman, starring Hugh Jackman, Zendaya, and Zac Efron. By 2016, the project was moving ahead cautiously. And honestly, I can't really blame the guy because Hollywood has produced several heavily criticized adaptations of universally loved manga and anime series, including Death Note, Dragon Ball Evolution, and Ghost in the Shell. Gracie said that he wanted to move forward only when they had a script that series creator Kishimoto supported. So even though the project was announced in 2015, development continued for a long time. And by 2018, the movie still hadn't entered production. Gracie said, "The thing that I don't want to do is make a movie that's not authentic to what people love about Naruto." Apparently, the project was moving at an extremely slow pace because the creative team had not finalized an approved vision for the film. In 2024, Lionsgate announced Cretton as the new writer and director. Although the studio's announcement didn't provide a detailed explanation for Gracie's departure, the appointment confirmed that the project had moved forward with a different director and creative approach. Therefore, it would be unfair to claim as fact that Gracie was removed simply because he was not a fitting choice. What we can say is that his version never reached production and that Lionsgate eventually restarted the project under Destin Daniel Cretton. Tasha Hugh's script and how the writing credit actually evolved. In November 2023, it was announced that screenwriter Tasha Hugh was working on the project. She had experience with adaptations and fantasy properties, including Netflix's animated Tomb Raider: The Legend of Lara Croft and the animated series The Mighty Nine. These are not live-action adaptations, but they did give her experience translating established fantasy and video game properties into scripted screen entertainment. Her main objective was not to create another heavily criticized adaptation that ignored what audiences loved about the original material. According to her comments, a good adaptation comes from the writer's love for the source material and a proper understanding of its themes, characters, and setting. So without properly understanding Naruto, she could never have written the screenplay. She was very impressed when Cretton became involved with the writing the next year. There appeared to be mutual respect between the two writers, although Cretton was officially taking over and developing the story further rather than simply serving as Hugh's equal co-writer throughout the entire process. Tasha said, "He's going to be able to capture how nuanced and special Naruto is without getting distracted by the big world that it is." While working on the screenplay, she talked about her intentions with the project. In her words, for Naruto, it was to ground it, to make it feel real and believable in the world of a live-action movie. When you watch it or read it, it's so bonkers. It's so good, but it's so bonkers. Yes, you can actually sense the excitement in her words that comes from a genuine fan of the manga. Yet the process was quite a big challenge for her. She said, "The rules you just sort of take for granted because of the medium you're watching it in, but once you translate it to real people, saying real lines and needing to convey real plot, yeah, that was the challenge, but also the joy of it because they're just so fun." Hugh confirmed in 2024 that her version of the script was complete and had been handed over to Cretton, who was then doing his own work on the story. The whitewashing fear that has followed this project for a decade. Well, whitewashing has been a recurring issue in Hollywood live-action adaptations for years, and it seems like the industry has had a really hard time getting over it. This is one reason some fans and Japanese creators have been cautious about Hollywood handling Japanese properties. However, there is no confirmed public statement proving that Kishimoto personally delayed Naruto specifically because he feared whitewashing. If you look at the 2017 screen adaptation of Death Note, you would find that the story was relocated from Japan to the United States, while Light Yagami was reimagined as the American character Light Turner. And then Scarlett Johansson playing Major Mira Killian, a version connected with Motoko Kusanagi in the 2017 Ghost in the Shell, generated another major controversy concerning race, casting, and the preservation of the source material's Japanese identity. And the list could go on, but I think these two examples demonstrate why fans are concerned about how Hollywood adaptations treat Japanese characters and settings. So far, there is no evidence that the production has either completed its casting or made a confirmed decision to avoid whitewashing. No actor has officially been announced for Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, or any other principal character. Therefore, it's too early to claim that the studio has already kept the casting grounded or that Kishimoto's involvement guarantees a particular ethnic approach. I think it is possible that the lead characters of the story could be played by Japanese or other Asian actors, but the production has not confirmed that. If the studio and the creative teams behind it ultimately choose a cast that ignored the characters' cultural and visual roots, I don't think many fans would appreciate that. Although the reaction could be divided because fan expectations surrounding the live-action film are diverse. For example, I've repeatedly seen Tom Holland playing Naruto in fan-made posters or concept trailers, and not gonna lie, some of those concepts look pretty cool. But they still don't provide any information about the real casting or the cultural approach that the actual production will take. What Naruto must learn from One Piece's success and Death Note's failure. In 2023, right before One Piece was set to release on Netflix, many longtime fans of the manga and anime had the same kind of fear that I just talked about. But after hitting Netflix, it subverted many expectations. And now, if fans want a live-action manga adaptation, many point towards One Piece as a positive example. There are mainly two reasons why One Piece was widely considered a success. Firstly, the creator's involvement in the project. One Piece was created by the legendary Eiichiro Oda, who was actively involved in the production. He reviewed major creative elements, including casting and adaptations of his story, while working with the show's writers, directors, producers, and showrunners. Matt Owens and Steven Maeda served as the principal showrunners during the first season, although the production involved a much larger creative team. The second formula was casting a diverse international group of actors who broadly fit Oda's conception of the characters and the multicultural nature of the One Piece world. The diversity made sense because One Piece is a world full of eccentric people with wildly unique skills and backgrounds. So I think Naruto's adaptation can attempt to follow the same footsteps because Kishimoto has been consulted and has publicly endorsed Cretton. However, his statement doesn't tell us exactly how much day-to-day control he will have over casting, scripts, or final production decisions. For now, I'd like to just dwell on the more optimistic assumption because I hope they recognize why some live-action adaptations have failed and avoid repeating those mistakes. Moreover, there's an advantage that Naruto could have And that is the Shippuden time skip. When Naruto first began his journey, he was approximately 12 years old. After the first part of his story, the narrative skipped forward roughly 2.5 years, and he returned at approximately 15 years old. This time gap could be used if Lionsgate is looking forward to making an entire franchise, because there's nothing as magical as casting a child actor who naturally grows up as the story progresses. When Harry Potter and Stranger Things did it, we literally went crazy over the cast growing up with the series. And for Naruto, the excitement could be the same if Lionsgate considered it. The legacy it's adapting, why Naruto still matters. So lastly, if you ever wonder why Naruto is regarded as one of the biggest anime and manga franchises of all time, not just in Japan, but on an international scale, you should know that before the story even made it to anime, it became one of the best-selling manga series ever published. The original series, created by Kishimoto, ran in Weekly Shonen Jump from 1999 to 2014. Its 700 chapters were collected into 72 volumes, and more than 250 million print copies have circulated worldwide. And then came an entire franchise, including 2 long-running anime series, animated movies, video games, light novels, graphic novel releases, merchandise, and the sequel series, Boruto. And it was never just children or teenage boys who liked the show. It created a diverse international fan base. Also, some of the coolest taijutsu battles, ninjutsu techniques, and tactical fights gathered the audience. But the core of the story was a lot more than just combat. It showed the ups and downs of friendship, loneliness, perseverance, inherited pain, and the never-ending cycle of hatred. These are some of the core emotions of Naruto, and people still remember the series because of them. This is why making a live-action film that's both authentic and brilliant is quite a tough challenge for Destin and Lionsgate. On that note, this video is over. This is everything we know so far about the upcoming live-action film, but once again, Lionsgate has yet to reveal much more about it. So stay tuned for more updates, and like and subscribe to our channel, please. Until then, goodbye, and I'll see you in the next one.